Okay, here we go. Welcome everybody that is trickling in. We are fired up to have you here. It is my honor to be hosting the inaugural Naturally San Diego Pitch Slam. I hope you were able to join us last night for our tailgate, which was consisted of a decent amount of libations, and thank you to our friends at RSM for sponsoring that. And cheers to tonight's event. For those who do not know me, my name is Matt Clifford. I am a board member of Naturally San Diego. I'm a co-founder of Barnana, and I am the CEO of Can Do, the maker of Keto Crisp. Along with many of my other colleagues at Naturally San Diego and our very generous sponsors, we have been working tirelessly behind the scenes to put tonight's event together. Please give us some leeway, as this is a first for us, and we are navigating any difficulties on technology around Zoom here. This is our first ever Pitch Slam, and we received over 30 applicants from the Southern California area, which we are thrilled. The interest was high, and today we have to pick one lucky winner. It's not going to be easy. There was an intense screening committee for who chose the 5 pitches today. It consisted of an unbiased group of professionals from marketing to the founder and CEO role. And we have what I think is a pretty competitive lineup here. Joining them are an esteemed panel of judges that have the really hard job of just picking one lucky winner. I am so happy that I do not have to be doing that. But before we get into the action, I wanted to share just a little bit about Naturally San Diego and the why behind this competition and why we exist as an organization. So Naturally San Diego launched in March of last year, so we're officially just 1 year old. And it was during a time where community was needed more than ever. We were sheltered in place, and the natural foods community was a bit adrift in San Diego. So we are a locally founded 501c6 nonprofit. Our mission is pretty simple. We want to foster this amazing natural foods community we have in San Diego, and it is growing, and we are fortunate to be the hub for that. This community is really supported by some of the iconic founding brands here in San Diego, from Dr. Bronner's to Pattaya Foods to Chosen Foods to Suja. These companies, as well as service providers like RSM and Procopio and Marsh & McClellan, they really make this all possible. And it's an excuse for us to get together and embody the spirit of the natural foods community here in San Diego. And we're super appreciative of their involvement and their support. Speaking of the natural products industry, we couldn't be here today without some of those great pioneers and those great brands. And they've helped shape the ecosystem that we know it today. And today we are lucky enough to be joined by one special person that I'm thrilled to hear from. You may know him by his fast-growing podcast called The Checkout, or some of the stories you may have read in Forbes. He is a phenomenal individual. I myself chased him down in Anaheim 10 years ago, trying to convince him to take our first product into Whole Foods. So please give us a warm welcome for Errol Schweizer, the previous VP of Grocery at Whole Foods, for him to share some wisdom and some updates on what he's been working on. Errol, take the stage.
Hello, Natural San Diego. My name is Errol Schweizer. For those of you that I have not met, I've been in the natural and organic food sector since the mid-90s. I worked in food co-ops, CSAs, farmers markets, community gardens. I worked in warehouses. And then I spent about 14 years at Whole Foods Market, including 7 years as the head of the grocery department for the company. I also worked in about 5 stores across 4 regions. And then for the last 5 years, I've been an advisor, consultant, board member, co-founder, partner, mentor, advocate, pain in the ass to probably about 25 food companies, retail, CPG, as well as NGOs. And I also do quite a bit of writing and media work, trying to continue to improve the food system for the better. And so the basic theme for the next couple minutes that I'm going to talk about is justice and dignity in supply chains. As I'm talking about this, from first person, having attempted for many years to implement such concepts and, create such structures and relationships in supply chains. And I can tell you firsthand, it's not easy. I've got some good examples of things that folks have done, but I also think there's a lot of opportunity for those of you who are creative, motivated, progressive, caring, heartfelt, smart, brilliant entrepreneurs. I think the greatest challenge we have is not coming up the new and cool innovation and the latest, greatest flavor and line extension. I know you're going to do that anyway. That's your job, right? That's what we're all here for. I think our greatest challenge is creating justice and dignity in our supply chains. I think as a country, as a society, we've continued to fail. And, I think the major failure that we've seen has been COVID-19 pandemic, which, is ongoing now. I'm doing this recording in March of 2021. So, it's a good 13 months that we've really been locked down. And we've seen a huge impact on society, particularly in the food sector. And I think it's really exposed the food system as really not too far removed from its roots in plantation slavery. As folks know, this country was founded as a slave republic. Millions of Africans were stolen from West and Central Africa from agricultural societies in order to grow food and grow cotton and sugar and other commodity crops for the market. On land that had been dispossessed, stolen from Native Americans. And, what we've seen COVID-19 is there's sort of this direct line of what's happened over the last 400 years until now. Over 90,000 supply chain workers have been sickened with the virus. Probably around 400 have died that we know of. I mean, there's at least a couple hundred that have died in retail as well. There's probably many, many others that we'll never understand or hear about because the tracking of such data is really flawed. The meat plants are major culprits in this, the big factory farm meat plants. But also there's been plenty of outbreaks at produce growers like Gebers in the Pacific Northwest, or hydroponic growers on the East Coast, like any of these big facilities that are staffed by overworked, underpaid, exhausted personnel that are working in close quarters. It's not as though things were like amazing before that. One of the things that I've researched is wage growth versus productivity in this country. If wages had kept pace with productivity, our minimum wage in this country would be over $24 an hour, as opposed to this $15 an hour, which didn't even pass the Senate, which is to me crazy. Seen from another angle, in aggregate, working class people have been robbed of close to $50 trillion in income since 1975, over $2.5 trillion annually. And meanwhile, top 1% of income earners have increased their share from 9% to over 20% in that time frame. While the bottom 90%, as in most of your consumers, most of the people who will be buying the food and products that you create and sell, they've seen their share fall from 67% to 50%. So, if you're going to talk about, Black Lives Matter, if you're going to be talking about Me Too, if you're going to be talking about, protecting the Asian American Pacific Islander community, you have to talk about inequality as well, because these issues of class and circumstance intersect and they overlap. And as we know, the food industry is still primarily owned, governed, controlled, managed mostly by older white dudes, right? And so, when we're talking about diversity, we have to look at our supply chains, and that's where I think it becomes a justice issue. So let's talk a bit more about that. Let's talk a little about labor. It's always uncomfortable to talk about this with other entrepreneurs because, folks have a lot of preconceptions about, what fair labor is. And of course you can do right by your employees. We're assuming that we're assuming that everybody here is going to pay their people well, treat them right, and, give them stock options that they cash in when that eventual exit happens, right? But I do think there needs to be a greater advocacy for workers outside of our direct supply chains or our direct employment circumstances. I'm actually a really big fan of the PRO Act, which has passed the House of Representatives. It is a really groundbreaking piece of labor legislation that is probably the most important labor legislation in decades, probably more so than anything that we've seen in our lifetimes. It'll enable easier collective bargaining for employees. It'll prevent interference by companies, like if you've been paying attention to Amazon and how they've been just messing with folks who are trying to unionize in Bessemer. And by the way, 80% of the folks in Bessemer trying to unionize are Black, and the majority of them are women. There's been huge turnover. That type of stuff will be illegal. You won't be able to do that. Workers will have a bit more protection. It'll protect gig workers. It'll prevent the expansion of laws like Prop 22, which create more precarious employment for folks where they don't have, guarantees of health care and minimum wage, that, they're really bound by the app, right? They're, bound by the algorithm. And I think that's a huge problem. So you need to think about whether or not you've been advocating for the PRO Act, or if you've bought into some of the propaganda from the Koch brothers that it's bad for your business, it's bad for workers, it's bad for freelancers, all of which has been soundly defeated in the press. So just something for you to think about, and think about, have you done anything in solidarity, with folks like the Amazon workers in Bessemer? And by the time this airs, I believe that vote count will have been done. But there's Amazon campaigns happening all over the place, in the Inland Empire, in Southern California, not too far away from San Diego, in Chicago, and Minneapolis, and New York. There was just a strike at all Amazon facilities in Italy. And because, while Amazon may be, all about consumer welfare and convenience, folks, they're a terrible employer. Let's be real. It is hard to work there, and that those algorithms burn you out. I worked in warehouses almost 20 years ago. And it was manual, it was hard work. But I wasn't being governed by an algorithm. I didn't have a digital boss, keeping track of my every move and watching the amount of time I went, to do a number one while I was on the job, right? And so these are the types of circumstances that affect everybody. So more so than just, what your relationship is with Amazon, your relationship with, their fulfillment, center. Think about all the folks that are actually touching your products and whether or not they're getting treated fairly, the delivery drivers, and whether or not they're having to pee in a bottle or take a shit in a bag because they don't have time for a real bathroom break. And this is real, folks. I have friends, I have close associates who've worked for Amazon or still continue to work there, and it is brutal. So I think that's something that you should all think about. I also think you should carefully consider all the anti-union, union avoidance propaganda that you've been hearing all your life. And maybe some of you came from union families. I grew up in a community of union members. Although my dad wasn't in a union, he worked with union folks. And, unions built the middle class. Unions gave us the weekend. Unions gave us the 8-hour workday. Union members in general get paid 20% more than non-union members for the same type of jobs. They raise the wages and working conditions. They create safer work environments because they have oversight over the labor process. And it's primarily impacted positively Black and Hispanic Latinx workers, particularly Black women who make more than 19% more than non-union women for doing the same types of jobs. And if you look at the recent union campaigns in the US, all across the Southeast, textile plants, meat processing plants, warehouses, factories, these campaigns are being led by Black women. So if you're out there saying Me Too, and if you're out there saying Black Lives Matter, and you are against unions, or you're against the PRO Act, you're probably a hypocrite, and you've probably got to do a little soul searching about what you're really about. And then the second thing I really want to talk about, because all food is grown on farms. All food is not grown by farmers. All food is grown by farm workers. And while some farmers may be driving a combine or going out, waking up in the morning to milk their cows, there's a good chance that most of them have hired labor who are actually doing the work. And as many of you know, farm workers have been exempt from the Fair Labor Standards Act, which was passed in 1938 during the FDR period, the New Deal. So Fair Labor Standards Act established workplace protections, the minimum wage, 40-hour work week, overtime pay, ban on child labor. FDR had to exempt farm workers from this in order to appease Southern Dixiecrats, Southern Democrats, who didn't want to compensate their workers fairly because they were an agricultural society in the South. And that was because their agricultural workers were both black and white, although it's primarily been said lately that it was due to racism. I do think it's more along the lines of economics. Farm workers are now primarily majority Latin American immigrant and have been exploited by literally generations of farmers, big and small. So it's not just the big processing plants, it's not just the big growers, but really it's smaller farmers too. In fact, my podcast, the Checkout Radio, we did an interview with a dairy farm worker group in Vermont called Migrant Justice. Really wonderful, inspiring group of folks who put pressure on and then work with Ben and Jerry's to implement their process to ensure that all dairy farm workers in Ben and Jerry's supply chain are being paid a fair wage, are being treated fairly, have workplace protections. And they had to do it because they ended up having one of their members was killed in a milk parlor. He got stuck in some equipment and it suffocated him. And so out of necessity, they've started organizing. And this is to overcome this legacy of exploitation in our food system. And this is something that affects everyone. This affects everything that we sell. It affects everything that we eat. At some point along the supply chain, farm workers have touched nearly everything that we're talking about here. And yet they are at the bottom of the heap and exploited in this country, and primarily low-paid, invisible immigrant labor. And anytime they start organizing or asking for better wages and working conditions, somebody calls ICE on them, in their sphere of deportations. Really terrible treatment. So that's the other thing I wanted to sort of really make sure folks understood. A couple of years ago in California, they had introduced legislation federally, Fairness for Farm Workers Act, which would mandate overtime and minimum wage and overtime exemptions. There was actually a study in Massachusetts a couple of years ago. It concluded that giving workers overtime pay would add just 2% to the farm gate cost. So as those of you know in CPG, farm gate cost is just one aspect of your own margin and overhead, right? And by the time you amortize that 2% of farm gate all the way to the consumer, it's a fucking rounding error. Yet the amount of change in livelihood and quality of life that would mean for farmers would be a 17% pay bump for farm workers. Huge change just by adding a little bit, to the farm gate costs, actually paying them a living wage. And there's other organizations like National Young Farmers Coalition, Alianza Nacional de Campesinos, Heal Food Alliance, CATA, check out Rosalinda Guillen in California. I mean, there's some amazing folks doing work around not only the treatment and fair pay, but also the input and the impact on the labor process that farm workers have. And then, finally, I want to wrap this up by talking about something that's really important to me. It's close to my heart because, as all of you know, I come from a merchandising, purchasing, supply chain background, is standards around procurement. And, there's certain certifications out there, like maybe fair trade, which there's various varieties of varying degrees of efficacy. There's Rainforest Alliance, obviously on growing techniques, there's organic or non-GMO, but really taking a look at all this as a whole in terms of how you're framing out your supply chain ethics. And a great resource is called Center for Good Food Purchasing Program. They have a 5-tiered framework, 5 core values around how to assess your supply chain in terms of impact to local economies, a valued workforce, environmental sustainability, animal welfare, and nutrient density or nutrition. I've volunteered with these folks to roll these standards out at Austin Independent School District since 2015. I actually know some other folks who came out of Whole Foods who had volunteered with them out in LA. The standards themselves were formulated by community groups, by labor unions, as a way of creating a better, more holistic, more sustainable food system, primarily for the folks most impacted when you don't have these standards in place. So, the whole saying of, the closer to the pain, the closer to the power. And this is a good example of folks who come from those communities the closest to the pain, creating a really rigorous and effective way to address systemic purchasing standards. So I'd invite everybody to check out Center for Good Food Purchasing. They're good friends of mine, GFPP. And then the other thing finally is, in terms of those labor standards, I mentioned my belief in trade unions, to look up something called worker-driven social responsibility. I mentioned migrant justice earlier. That's one example. I think the more visible example of this has been the Coalition of Immokalee Workers, which has signed contracts for up to 20% of tomatoes sold in this country so far. And they've negotiated legally binding contracts and codes of conducts with the buyers, the retail corporate buyers, that articulate clear penalties for growers who abuse their workers or create conditions that lead to sickness and death. So growers will lose the business if they misbehave. And they've done that by partnering with consumers. So I think this WSR model, the worker-driven social responsibility, is really what needs to replace what we used to call corporate social responsibility. It puts workers in the supply chain in the driver's seat, closest to the pain, closest to the power. Folks who are most familiar with the labor process have a say in the labor process and working conditions, and also they get paid better. And so I'll leave you with this quote from my friend Greg Asbed. He's a co-founder of CIW. And what he says, if you have purchasing power, you can demand more humane conditions. You can demand compliance with fundamental human rights in your supplier operations. You can improve the lives of millions of people if you decide to wield that same volume purchasing power for good as opposed to evil. All this comes together to form an actual enforcement of these rights in their Fair Food Code of Conduct. That's the power of the purchase order. And what they call social responsibility in the food industry is a joke, a fraud. It's absolutely empty and soulless and unreal. It is everything that has not worked and has been done for public relations purposes for corporations, not workers. That all became clear when COVID came down and all these outbreaks came to press. Did any buyer step up and say, we can't allow this to keep happening? Not one. So I'm going to close with that I'm hoping that all of you folks take this into account when considering your supply chains, the amount of difference and change that you could directly impact through your procurement and operational efforts, the amount of work that needs to be done to truly have justice for all in our supply chains. And I'm available anytime for feedback and further input. Thank you all so much, and hope you all do well. Thanks.
All right, Errol, thanks so much for that. As always, dropping knowledge and insight that we can all benefit from. I would now love to turn my attention to the stars of the show, our 5 finalists and 5 judges. From innovation and sun protection to the next wave of superfood beverages, we really have a diverse group of finalists. So to welcome our superstar contenders, let's kick it off. We have Amvara, Soul Munch, I Eat My Greens, Shroom Eats, and True Vita. We'll be getting deep into each of these brands shortly, but first I'd like to welcome our 5 judges, and a big thanks for all of them contributing their time to make this event a reality. Our 5 judges represent a diverse group from the industry, from finance and venture capital to the CEO and founder perspective, and marketing and PR. You'll get a wide range of feedback today from our judges, and we've got a wonderful group. I'd like to hear a little bit more about their backgrounds and introduce each of them today. So let's start with Sarah Brooks. She's the founder of Covet PR and Chief Brand Officer at Power Digital. Sarah, so good to have you. What are you looking for today in the pitches?
Thanks, Matt. It's great to be here, and congrats to all of our finalists. I think where I sit, I am hyper obsessed with innovation, product differentiation, messaging. Why is a consumer going to pick your product versus the 30 other competitors? So what I'm looking for are founders that really understand their space and also understand where they need to go in the next 5-10 years to really make it and to kind of cut through the noise. So really excited to dive into the brands we have today. I see a lot of innovation we've had a chance to try and eat and drink and use the products. So I think it's going to be a stiff competition, and I'm excited to get started.
Thank you, Sarah. Always good to have your insight. Next up, we have Greg Fleischman, co-founder of Purely Righteous Brands and the CEO and co-founder of Foodsters. Greg does so much in the industry. Greg.
Thanks, Matt. I want to be blown away. I'm looking for that. I think, and congrats to everybody that made it into the finals. So looking for a really tight brand, something that's market ready, that has a strong value proposition, that we could see being in market for the next 100 years, and a well-established team that knows how to hustle, that's smart, and can execute flawlessly. So I'll be looking for all of those things with all of these great presenters today. Thank you, Matt.
Love it. Love it, Greg. You've had your hands in so many great brands in the industry, so I know your feedback's going to be fantastic. Next up, we have Ahmed Pandy, CEO of Velocity Snack Brands and Pop Chips. Amit, what are you looking for, bud?
I'm looking to get more of John's $850 million first and foremost. But what I'd love to see from these brands and from these founders is just to really hear the inspiration and the founding stories. What's the spark that's driving this brand? There are a lot of ups and downs every day, and oftentimes it's really that mission and that magic that keep you going. And also really like to focus on the route to market and how did they get to a sustainable margin profile. So looking forward to meeting these entrepreneurs and hearing their stories and love trying all of the products. So they've all got something special already in front of them.
Thank you, Ahmed. That's terrific. Next up, we have Melissa Facina, general partner and co-founder of City Capital. Melissa, it's so good to have you here. What are you looking for today?
Thanks for the invite. Rock star panel of judges here, and super stoked to be part of it. Look, I'm an operator by nature. What I focus on both in my day job in City Ops and in my nighttime job in City Capital is how we can drive brands forward on the back end operationally. And so I care a lot about scale. Can a product not just gain market penetration and consumer support, but can you drive it forward cost effectively and from a volume capacity and with a healthy supply chain and safely? And so I tend to dive into the boring operational issues more than other people do. But it's my belief that you need a succinct back-end operating structure. So I care about that. And then obviously how we can put capital to work inside these businesses that we think, have a strong operational foundation.
Thanks, Melissa. And last but certainly not least, we have John Marshall, partner at VMG Partners. John, you guys just raised $850 million. What are you looking for today in deploying that capital?
Yeah, no, I think it'll largely be the same things we've been doing for the last 15, 16 years. In terms of what I'd like to see today, it's really solving for two things mainly. It's that founder and entrepreneur passion, the vision that they have for their brand and business coming to life. And then it really is that balance of brand and business. So seeing what at scale these businesses and brands will turn into, and ensuring that in addition to scaling to something that can be an iconic brand, they will also scale to a well-functioning business model.
Amazing. Thank you all so very much. And while everybody here today is a winner, one of the 5 Pitch Slam finalists is going to leave with a grand prize. We've worked really hard to cultivate this great group of individuals and benefactors to rally an amazing package. So what you're getting as a winner is retail distribution in Jimbo's Naturally, Seaside Market, Jensen's, and Cream of the Crop, all amazing retailers in San Diego. $25K worth of professional business services from Velocity Snack Brands, Purely Righteous, High Touch Distribution, City Ops, DLA Piper, and Maven Consulting. And lastly, a 10x10 booth from our friends at New Hope Network for a booth at Expo East. No small package there. So this would really help propel the velocity and the growth of anybody that's chosen as a winner, and we're really excited for it. All this is exciting. We have a ton of opportunities to elevate the brands in the most critical phases. But wait, there's more. We're also going to have an audience participation at the end of today's Pitch Slam. We're going to call this the People's Choice Award. This is going to be a poll that everybody's going to participate, and the winner is going to be provided additional prizes based on what the audience chooses. And we're excited for that. So that will be coming. So watch intently and hold your vote until you see the poll pop up at the very end. And please vote for who you think should be the best winner today in San Diego Pitch Slam. All right, here we go. The moment we're all been waiting for, a lot of effort put into this, the pitch slams themselves. This is what it's all about. As a reminder to each entrepreneur, we have 5 minutes to pitch, and then it's gonna be followed by 5 minutes of Q&A. So please keep that brief at the end there. And we're gonna be right back for pitch number 1. San Diego, let's go, baby. All right, let's kick this off. I'm excited to welcome our first Pitch Slam finalist, Brendan Murphy, VP at Amavara Skincare, a sunscreen company that has created an all-mineral skin product line. We can all relate to the problem they're solving is trying to find a really good sunscreen without that white nose or that white skin. So excited for Brandon to tell us a bit more what's going on and the judges to give us feedback.
Good afternoon. My name is Brendan Murphy, and we are here to tell you about Amavara, a mineral sunscreen that goes on transparent. We'll start off with Craig, who's going to give you an overview of why he and Laura teamed up to start Amavara.
Hi, my name is Craig Irving, and I am co-founder of Amavara Skincare. I'm a 3-generation native San Diegan, and I've spent the last 35 years creating and running various companies in San Diego. I've surfed almost my entire life, and over the past 15 years have had to deal with skin cancer in various forms. And it was about 8 years ago that I met Laura Singleton, who created the best sunscreen product I have ever used. And together, we are trying to create the best sunscreen company in the world. So thank you very much for your consideration.
Craig alluded to Laura's expertise as a formulator, but let me just build on that for a bit. Laura spent 30 years developing many of the sunscreens you see on the shelf today, branded Neutrogena and Aveeno. She has 12 patents to her name, and her work resulted in over 150 awards from major publications. Laura's decades of experience in the industry have resulted in a passion for perfecting her craft. And as she and Craig share the common bond of striving to create a sunscreen that is safe for your skin and safe for the environment. So with the two of them in place, next, they added Josh, who leads our marketing and branding efforts. He comes from a background in the action sports industry and has a track record of success in consumer products. Josh co-founded and sold an 8-figure shoe company, Broken Home. Lastly, I joined in December of 2019 after spending time in a classic CPG background of General Mills, Tom's of Maine, and most recently, Baby Ganix. During my time there, I was lead on our key accounts like Target and Grocery, where we collaborated with buyers to make Baby Ganix the #1 sunscreen in the baby kids category. The problem we set out to address is that people want to use mineral sunscreen because of its positive qualities, but can't seem to find a mineral sunscreen that has the aesthetics of chemical sunscreen. So in general, there are 2 types of sunscreen, chemical and mineral. Chemical sunscreens do provide protection against the sun, but they harm our coral reefs and waterways, disrupt your endocrine system, and even burn your eyes in the water. Mineral sunscreens create a physical barrier between your skin and harmful UV rays, and they're safe for the environment. But they still have that negative connotation of the 80s lifeguard with a white nose, and people cannot seem to find a mineral sunscreen that blends into their skin. Our solution. With sunscreen use increasing across the world, our mission at Amavara is to offer a mineral formula that does not sacrifice for quality, aesthetics, or finish. We use non-nano zinc oxide as our only active ingredient and a proprietary blend of inactive ingredients to develop a sunscreen that is safe for sensitive skin, great for the active family, and goes on transparent. At Amavara, our why is that we all have families. We all enjoy our waterways, and we are joined by our purpose of a mineral sunscreen that both looks good aesthetically and is safe for our planet. So what's the market opportunity here? The sunscreen category is roughly $9 billion and is dominated by large players like Coppertone and Banana Boat. These large players have a strong foothold in the chemical sunscreen space. But a quick glance at a retail shelf will show that despite their best efforts, they are yet to develop compelling mineral offerings that will turn fast enough to hold shelf space at retail. So how does Amavara fit into all of this? This is a consumer research slide we use in our brand deck with retail customers. As you can see, the number one thing consumers love about us is that we are delivering on our mission. The product goes on transparent. Number two is that it's non-greasy. And the third is that women love to use our tinted lotion in lieu of foundation to simplify their routine. So how are we getting the word out about Amavara? Well, it was important to the team to confirm consumer traction before we got too far into brick and mortar retail. So the focus was D2C in 2019, which resulted in accumulating over 350 five-star reviews to date. In 2020, we went live on Amazon, and our number one SKU is already turning in the top third of all sunscreens there. Also, despite the pandemic, we expanded our brick and mortar footprint by 50% last year. And now, this year, we will be going live on Target.com for a July launch, and we'll be part of a 10-store test at West Marine next month. How do we see ourselves continuing to scale into the future? Well, our revenue comes from three channels. Our website, which we drive through social activations and email marketing. Amazon, which will double in revenue for us this year through leveraging an ad optimizing platform. And brick and mortar. Now, brick and mortar is currently the smallest of our three channels, and despite some really exciting traction with major retailers, we wanted to take this opportunity today to partner with Naturally San Diego to gain a stronger foothold in our own backyard. These channels are supported by a fantastic contract manufacturing partner that can scale the brand to production runs of hundreds of thousands of units. And our target acceptance pushed us towards getting set up with a 3PL and EDI, which will only allow us to scale faster. Now is the time for us to step into that next phase of growth. So why Amavara? One, we have the best formulation in the growing segment of mineral sunscreen. Two, the category of sunscreen is seeing usage growth. And three, our X factor is our team, which has the experience and connections to break through. Thank you. Thank you again for having us. We're really excited about participating in a greater way in the Natural San Diego community, and excited to hear more from the judges.
I'm going to kick it off, Brendan. Welcome. Love the product. I'm a mom, so there's lots of reasons I love it even more. Something I wanted to ask you is, I understand the big difference between Amavara and other sunscreens is your technology, but can you in layman terms explain why this matters and why consumers should care?
Absolutely, and thank you for bringing that up. You likely are exactly our target demographic, our millennial mom that has kids and is looking for something that's a better option for both her as well as her family. So a couple different things to hit on here. So for starters, chemical versus mineral sunscreen. That chemical sunscreen for yourself and for children is going to seep in your pores, disrupt your endocrine system, disrupt our waterways, our coral reefs, and ultimately just not great for your skin. So we are looking to shift people more in awareness towards mineral sunscreen. And so now that we have you in the general category of mineral sunscreen, why Amavara? So the pain point that we hit on first and foremost is the fact that we go on transparent, and we love to shout that from the rooftops. Beyond that, once you peel back the onion on mineral sunscreens, we hit on so much more. If you were to shop the mineral sunscreens in your local Target, CVS, et cetera, you will see some, and they may claim safe for sensitive skin. They may claim ReSafe. We are able to hit on the whole list of safe for sensitive skin, will leave your grip dry with non-greasy formulation. We are non-comedogenic, hypoallergenic, and as well as being safe for sensitive skin, and kind of the list goes on. So we are proud of the fact that we are transparent. We go on clear, but then once you peel that back a little bit further, we hit on all that rest that make you feel good about putting something on both your skin as well as your children's.
Thanks for that, Brendan. I'm going to toss it over to my colleague, Greg.
So my main question is around your team. So why a cool idea, strong value proposition? How is your team experienced to really pull and execute to bring your dream to life in the marketplace in the most winning way possible?
So as you learned about a little bit in the video, Laura spent 3 decades developing many of the sunscreens that you see on the shelf from Neutrogena, Aveeno, and perfecting that mineral formulation that she has been looking to bring to the market in a greater way. And so Laura is really the foundation of Amavara, and sunscreen is where she's just getting started. So we have some really exciting things in the pipeline. We're not prepared to share a ton of details, but we will be bringing her mineral formulation, mineral protection to other categories in the years to come. After Laura, we have a phenomenal brand marketing vice president who has incredible experience in both the action sports industry as well as consumer goods. He has founded brands as well as bringing them to 8-figure exits. And so he right now is the right guy for our team to be getting the word out, getting our voice out about Amavara and speaking about the perfect formulation. Myself, my background is in kind of the classic consumer goods experience, spent time with General Mills, as well as spending time with smaller companies that were owned by larger companies. So having experience of seeing how those larger companies operate, how they think about categories. However, having that nimbleness of a small company, learned so much from my one of my mentors, founder and president of Baby Organics, which is known in many spaces as being a premium sunscreen. So I feel like I bring sunscreen experience and consumer goods to the table. And then lastly, to round us out, our CEO and fearless leader, Craig Irving. He is a native San Diegan, has spent years there, third generation, I believe. And so he has phenomenal roots in the San Diego community, entrepreneur himself. And so while he is new to consumer goods, he and I work in a very interesting and challenging way together, in the sense that I bring this classic consumer goods experience that he challenges on a day-to-day basis and makes us think about new ways to grow and break through to the next level. So we have all the bases covered as you think about how to bring a consumer goods brand to market in a big way, and couldn't be prouder of the team that we've assembled.
Great. Thank you for that answer. Really, really amazing. And
Thank you, Brandon. I appreciate your time, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you so much, Matt. Appreciate it.
Yep. Our second finalist, some of you may be familiar from the Farmers Market presence in San Diego. Please meet Mac Villarreal, the founder of I Eat My Greens. They make an incredible line of tasty soups, and can't wait for him to talk what it's all about.
Listen up, soup lovers. Something big is coming your way. And if you don't care for soup, I'm here to change your mind. I am Mac, CEO and founder of I Eat My Greens. For me, food and family have always gone hand in hand. But it wasn't until I became a professional athlete, training and competing in the Olympics, that I learned about nutrition and the importance to our well-being. It then became my mission to share this passion, ethos, and health power with the world. I started by founding and creating Frutos de Vida, a fresh juice brand in Mexico that I started in my kitchen and sold 6 years later. Now, I am tackling a new mountain. I want to revolutionize soup forever. This past year has brought health to the collective mind like never before. We value our well-being and the well-being of our planet. And as we all know, the plant-based trend is huge and here to stay. People are looking for ways to be healthier, but time constraints and high levels of anxiety make it challenging. Soup is a comforting, nostalgic, nourishing food that people love. But soup hasn't been done right until now. We all grew up with canned soups that are overly processed and have a ton of scientific sounding ingredients. I Eat My Green soups are fresh and are made from a small number of high quality, wholesome ingredients. And they come in one-of-a-kind flavor combinations. The first one is pea ginger coconut. All our soups are plant-based, offered in 20-ounce resealable pouches that provide 2.5 servings at an HRP of $8.99. The second one is carrot sweet potato with turmeric, black bean chipotle with cacao, and broccoli sunflower seeds. I Eat My Greens is fresh, flavor-forward, nutrient-dense refrigerated soup, made from scratch without using any shortcuts, and more importantly, made with purpose. We are incorporating more and more upcycled produce. With this, we're joining the effort to fight food waste. We're also working towards organic certification. And we have partnered with Feeding San Diego to provide meals for people in need and to volunteer our time in our local community. Consumers are asking for easy, convenient, healthy food. People are at home, but they want less prep and less complexity. I Eat My Greens soup is what you would make for yourself if you had the time. We offer quick meal solutions. They can be eaten as is, but people can also add toppings or use the soups as a sauce or a dressing. We offer recipes and ideas on use occasions that allow us to create valuable, shareable content for social media. Now, let's talk about the soup category. It's shifting. Consumers are looking for fresher, more nutritious alternatives to the foods they love. $6.8 billion is shifting to fresh. Fresh is the driver of growth in this category. Just as it happened with baby food, juice, and bars, it's happening in soup, and I Eat My Greens is at the forefront. We have a very strong team with a rich combined experience in sales, marketing, operations, and finance. Our proof of concept started at the Little Italy Farmers Market, where we successfully built a loyal fan base, selling over 100 units every Saturday in 2019. We received tons of feedback that we have incorporated into our products. Our sales at retail are above the category average. Without any sampling due to the pandemic and with no paid marketing last year, our same-store sales grew 18%. And we are on track to grow 38% this year. With sampling and strategic marketing, we expect to grow an additional 41% next year. My goal is to establish I Eat My Greens as a household name in Southern California before expanding to other regions and sales channels. I've dedicated myself for the last 3 years to build a scalable supply chain while maintaining premium quality and healthy margins. I'll be looking to raise $1 million to support this growth, while being very capital efficient and scrappy, just like I did in my previous company. Lastly, I want to share with you our new look, and end by emphasizing that the fire in me that made me qualify and compete in the Olympics, the same one that made me start, grow, and sell my first company, is guiding me to reinvent the soup category. Winning this pitch line would catapult I Eat My Greens into new heights. This competition is the next step to accomplishing the mission from which I Eat My Greens was born. Help me share this passion with the world. Thank you.
So judges, give us your feedback.
Super stoked to have you. What's the shelf life?
16 weeks. Refrigerated.
Okay. So we've been throwing around industry legend on this. So I'm going to pass it to another industry legend here, my colleague, John.
Similar kind of question to Melissa around shelf life. And you know, we've lived a few times over the challenges of getting refrigerated distribution in retail. As you think about the penny profit that a retailer might garner from bringing your soup in, as well as managing their spoilage cost in a refrigerated case, how do you think about your competitive advantage sitting on the shelf next to, you know, the products that you would be replacing potentially?
We can ship the soups frozen. So, you know, the retailers can receive them frozen and slack them out. Once they slack it out, they have the full life of the product. So that's a great option for them. And that also opens up another channel that I haven't talked about, but it's another opportunity. There's so many to be in the frozen case, but that's a different channel. So shipping it frozen gives you 1.5 years of shelf life. Once refrigerated, 16, but I've been doing tests and we can take it up to 20. So there hasn't been any spoilage so far, so that hasn't been an issue. So I'm pretty confident that that's not going to be an issue.
I will pass it on to Sarah Brooks to ask another question.
Hi, Mac. Big fan, especially of the broccoli flavor. So thanks for being here today. In my job, I think a lot about messaging, and knowing your company is called I Eat My Greens. Is the plan to always stay in the soup category, focused on produce-rich ingredients? And if so, from a high level, how do you plan on marketing yourself against some of those like big legacy soup brands that are starting to get more into this like healthy ingredient pressure space?
So yeah, then the name I Eat My Greens is especially, I thought about it a lot. It's about not using the word soup, because that opens up endless possibilities about the vegetable world. I mean, I call it the plant-based world. So in the future, you know, when the time is right, we can do different lines of products. For example, just like Siete has done. As far as differentiating, we started, you know, our origins is this fresh, clean ingredients brand. So that it's in us. So sometimes it's hard for other brands that have, you know, put their messages out, they have their legacy somewhere else. So we have this fresh, clean start. And I think that's going to be, it's very authentic. It's completely in our DNA, and that's the way we'll go forward.
Ahmed, I'll toss it over to you for any questions for Mac.
I think for me, educating the consumers where your product is located is going to be a new challenge, right? Consumers are used to going to the canned food aisle, so I'd love to understand how are you going to bring them to your brand, given that your route to market is very different.
I'm lucky here because there's already a refrigerated category for soups. Somebody at private level has done the work. So it's about educating, yes, the center aisle consumers to go to the refrigeration, which is, naturally happen with the perimeter of the store. People are looking for freshness, and that's where you find it, in the fridge. So having that category already established, it for sure it's growing. That's where I talked about the whole industry shifting to fresh. It's the consumer walking around and looking at the soup refrigerated and finally seeing this other options that they haven't been able to find that are fresh and clean and super tasty. But definitely it's a great opportunity and advantage of us to bring people from outside the category and within the category to this fresh set.
Thanks, Mac. Just so you know, I love the product. I even got my daughter to take down 2 of your soup. Big fan.
All right, next up, our third finalist is Desaya and Mary, the co-founders of Shroom Meats. You got that right, Shroom Meats, a shiitake mushroom-based alternative that fits into any lifestyle, made from only 6 ingredients. So excited to have you guys here.
Hi, I'm Desaya. I'm the founder of Shroom Meats, and let me tell you how Shroom Meats started. Everything started back home in Thailand in my kitchen. I used to cook a lot for my mom, and she has been a vegetarian for a long time, over 30 years, and I knew that cooking with just vegetables was not enough for her. So I started exploring with shiitake mushroom and turned them into meat substitutes in her meal, and that's how Shroom Meats came to life. Together with our founding partners, we all 3 of us have known each other for a long time. We wanted to make a change through food industry, and all 3 of us love eating. So we wanted to make sure that you're still getting that satisfaction. We saw that last year there has been a tremendous growth in meat alternative, and there is nothing to stop that. We dove a little bit deeper in the meat alternative category, and we saw that we still can't find that transparency in the ingredients, and that's something that we wanted to offer as a solution. We knew that shiitake mushroom would be the solution for the consumers. All of Shroom Meats products are proudly made of only 6 simple ingredients. They're all non-GMO. They've got great amount of protein. They're hearty and meaty, and they're like blank canvas. You can throw any seasonings on there. And here's our mushroom meat alternative, Shroom Meats. We are available for both retail and food service. And here is the magic. I would really love to hear what your favorite dishes are, because Shroom Meats, like I said, is like a blank canvas. You can throw any seasonings in there and they will absorb the flavor. So I would recommend you check out our YouTube channel. Within our supply chain, we don't only take the most beautiful mushrooms, we also take those that are being thrown away just because they're not perfect. So we can proudly say that we're able to upcycle the ingredients back to the production. And we make Shroom Meats in a vegan, family-owned facility whom we've known so well. And here is our mushroom-based meat alternative. Shiitake mushrooms have been used for medicinal reasons for a long time in Eastern cuisine. They help with your immune system, they help boost energy. It's really great for weight control because it's so fibery and it's really filling. And it's also the perfect ingredient for a keto diet. So if you're on one of those, I would recommend trying Shroom Meats. And on top of them having the benefits and them being the blank canvas, the sustainability side of that amazes me. It only takes 2 to 6 months from sporing to harvesting. So, and they are grown on decaying tree logs that are vertical. So think about the farmlands that we can take out of the equation from animal farming. Yeah, we've got amazing texture, simple ingredients, gluten-free, and it's vegan and it's versatile. And we're not stopping there. We are expanding and working to be in more stores across the nation. We're working with Pot Foods right now. And after partnering with them, we saw that we could double in sales and triple just a couple of months ago when we were able to launch our online presence. So we've sold so far about over 10,000 units, and that equals to 10,000 amazing Shroom meals. We're going to be partnering with Unify in the summer. So that's something really exciting for us. And that's going to be a big step for us to be in more stores nationwide. We're already in contact with at least 10 stores across the country. And like I said, we're not stopping here. We're working also to develop our packaging and our presence on the shelf. So soon to be, we're going to have a vegan certification, non-GMO project verified, and kosher and more. And we've been really excited to be featured in different articles, and I really look forward for Shroom Meats to be heard more and more. And our team is ready with our experiences in sustainability and natural foods. We are looking forward to growing this together with Naturally San Diego, and I would really like to thank you guys so much.
Judges, ask away.
All right, nice to meet you. Welcome, by the way. I had a lot of fun with your product. And I just have two simple questions. So frozen is a very capital intensive category to play in. So what are your product margins and gross margins now, and where do you see them in 2 years?
So our retail price right now is ranged between $7.99 to $9.99. So that gives about 32.5 to 45% margin for the retailers. And it's a really good question you bring up the frozen section, because we're actually working on switching from frozen to refrigerated. So that will be something new for us, and that will be a lot easier for everybody who will be involved in the whole process.
And what are your product margins right now for your brand? So I heard you say retail. What is the what are you guys at right now?
We're at about 32%.
But I noticed there's no trademarking on the word Shroom Meats. So have you actually been able to trademark Shroom Meats?
Yep, we have.
Okay. So is that just an oversight, or are you going to add that to the packaging at some point?
Definitely, that will be, and that's something I mentioned on the pitch too, that we are working on getting labels and more certification on. So that will be something that we're going to be working on the new packaging.
Okay, great. I think I'll turn it over. Thank you.
Guys, welcome. It's so great to meet you. Love the product. You know, I don't think anyone can go more than 5 minutes in their day without hearing about a plant-based meat alternative. And unlike some more of the mainstream brands like Beyond Meat and Impossible Foods, who rely more on science and labs, you guys are obviously going the mushroom route. What are the pros and cons you see from diverging a little from what a lot of the mainstream players are doing?
So because we're such a new category and a lot of plant-based are pea protein based, and the way those brands have presented themselves is that here's the burger and here's the plant-based burger. So it's really easy for consumers to perceive that. But the challenges for us would be introducing the mushroom product to the consumer. So that's something completely new. But the good side is that a lot of people have been cooking with mushrooms in their meals as the protein base. So we make it easier for them, instead of them having to buy the whole mushrooms and then wash it and doing all the cooking process. It's basically ready for you to cook.
So would you guys consider yourself in the plant-based meat category, or do you find yourself a little outside of that?
We're definitely in the plant-based meat category, although something that we could be called also is mushroom-based meat alternative.
Thank you for that.
I saw on your packaging that you're using an overseas manufacturing distribution. How has supply chain been affected or how long is your supply chain? How does it affect your inventory? And how has the pandemic sort of affected your ability to supply your customers?
Great question. We went through a lot of challenges last year, but in order to supply the ingredients to the production, we don't have any problems with that because we are actually working with the community farms in northern Thailand. But it's not only in the northern Thailand. There are different regions that we're in contact with for the suppliers, but we do have to ship them over here. So that is the challenge. That's right. Although we have a lead time from 4 to 6 weeks. And also after the pandemic, we've seen a little bit of the traffic with shipping. So we have everything planned ahead of time, and everything about logistics is communicated clearly with all the buyers that we work with.
Thank you.
One quick follow-up just on the move to refrigerated. You'll be going from a fairly defined set where Beyond Meat and Impossible are sitting next to other meat products, and they've kind of integrated the set, to oftentimes a refrigerated set where you're a bit segregated from any like-for-like products. How do you think about driving consumers to that section of the store if you are going to be a refrigerated item?
We've actually thought about that too. Although when there are more options on the frozen section of meat alternative, we feel like we are able to introduce that to consumers who are already looking for those options now. And once we're able to grow, we would definitely love to be right next to meat, because that's our goal. We want to be able to offer this as an option. So.
Thank you so much. We'll get back to you guys shortly on how the judging shakes out, but amazing job what you guys are up to. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much.
Okay, our fourth finalist, and now we welcome Rianne Mustafa and Kristen Krugman, co-founders of Soul Munch, a cookie line that is also on a great mission to reduce food waste.
Hi everyone, my name is Ray. I'm one of the co-founders of Soul Munch, and we are a food rescue company that repurposes excess restaurant and grocery store ingredients and upcycles them into delicious, clean, plant-based snacks, such as these protein cookies that you see here. Now, I think that we all know that there is a massive problem with food waste. Just restaurants alone waste over 33 billion pounds of fresh edible food, and 6 million of that is just brown rice. So it's safe to say that I think that we're all aware by now that food waste is one of the biggest drivers to our current climate crisis. But the real problem is that there are not enough innovative solutions that are tackling this issue and that are actually working. Now, there have been other upcycling companies that have tried to tackle this issue, but eventually face many problems, such as not properly identifying their target market by creating products that may have upcycled materials in them, but they don't retain much of that nutritional value. Now, there are other upcycling companies that do not have any shortage of materials, but their products just haven't really taken off in the market due to the taste falling short. So the real issue here is that there aren't enough companies that are making mouth-watering, delicious, health-forward products from food waste that customers actually crave and have a viable business model for growth. Innovation in the fresh snacking category has been driven primarily by smaller brands pioneering new categories, introducing unique ingredients, and advancing sustainable packaging. The total health and wellness snacking market reached $20 billion in 2020. And I love the way that New Hope says it. They say that brands of the future are the ones that are moving towards the perimeter of the grocery store, offering a fresh proposition. We are offering an array of fresh snacks that are clean labeled and upcycled. Now, the important factor to know about us is that our products really are delicious. And what truly sets us apart from the competition is that we've really built a loyal grassroots database that is growing. Now, the customers love the taste and the clean nutritional value that the cookies and the granola offer, even before they know our noble mission. Once they discover the backstory of how our products were born, they become even more invested in our success. Soul Munch is proving that food waste can be upcycled into delicious products and can be widely manufactured and distributed in a profitable way. So how do we do this? We created an internal QR code system software that allows us to be directly notified from our restaurant and grocery store partners when they have excess food. We then create an efficient pickup route to rescue the food, dehydrate it, and upcycle it into an array of fresh, clean products, such as the juice pulp-filled cookies, or our protein-packed flour, and our refined-free sugar granola. And we're partnering with some of the largest restaurant chains in the nation: True Food Kitchen, P.F. Chang's, Payway, Freshie, Grocery Outlet. Being millennials, we're killing it on the social media game. We've grown our following to over 15,000, and we've done this completely organically with zero paid advertisement yet. Now, we've had an 80% growth from Q3 to Q4 in 2020, and a 50% growth from Q4 to Q1 in 2021. And at the beginning of the pandemic, many of our retail stores closed down, which has forced us to focus on our online sales. Since this transition, our daily average use has increased by 350%. In our first quarter of 2021, we received more traffic than the last 3 quarters of 2020, and our average lifetime value per customer increased 37% over the last 2 quarters.
Now, this consistent financial growth quarter after quarter is a key indicator of constant sales, even through a turbulent period.
Now, I personally have a degree in food science and nutrition. I've published a vegan cookbook. I've been a head chef at a vegan restaurant. Chrissy, my sweet co-founder and COO, has a degree in environmental science and has over 10 years of management experience. Dakota, our CFO, with a degree in finance, has worked as a financial advisor. Morgan's a registered dietitian with a background in social media marketing. But we understand. We are a younger team, which is why we've applied and been accepted to several top elite accelerators such as Target, Holt, Future Founders, FoodX, Zip Launchpad, just to name a few. But we did this to equip us with the proper knowledge to fine-tune our direction and really narrow our focus to expand our network. Now, by 2023, we plan to have distribution in over 150 natural, independent, and specialty grocery stores in California, generating $600,000 in sales. Scaling that growth to the next 3 years, we plan to reach an anticipated $1.5 million in sales with 2.5x growth in retail, online, and catering. Now, there is no better time to do this than now, because restaurants are being forced by environmental legislation to reduce their edible food waste by 20% by 2023. So this is resulting in them seeking an alternative outlet for their unused food. And that is where we come in. And we are in this far beyond just making a profit. We are in this with a purpose to reshape industry standards by making the end of a supply chain the beginning of an entirely new food revolution. Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much for being here. Judges?
Yeah, I'd love to chime in. Hi, ladies. Welcome so much. Welcome, I should say. So question for you guys. I know it's so much. You're much more than a cookie company. You're really focused on sustainability and upcycling. So with cookies being your first foray into this brand, what do you guys have in terms of an innovation pipeline? Are you staying in cookies, or do you guys foresee you getting into other categories?
Yeah, great question. So we, like I said, started out with cookies, and then we actually launched our upcycled flour this year in COVID, and that had done so incredibly well. It was when everyone was trying to get into the home baking space. And so we sold out immediately. And so we're like, okay, let's follow this path for a little bit. And then we are kind of developing down the pipeline baking mixes. So similar to, I would say, Simple Mills, but an entirely upcycled line. So like one step, it's like got the health aspects, but it's also got the sustainability aspect. So that's kind of down the line. And then we actually just solidified a partnership with Grocery Outlet, which was huge for us because it's our first grocery store. So with that, we're thinking about doing a lot of innovation with the dried fruit space, and then also coming up with an upcycled ice cream line where we can then pair with the cookies or do something along the lines of that. So that's kind of down the future of the pipeline. And it's awesome because there's endless possibilities depending on the partners that we get. So all of our recipes are truly based on the products or byproducts or the waste that our partners have.
I love your mission. I love the way you're approaching different categories, from the packaging to the sourcing. I'm curious about, how do you scale this? I mean, you guys explained how to explain that you're going and picking up rice from this restaurant and different products from different restaurants. And I think that works at a local level. How does this business really scale in terms of sourcing?
Yeah, thank you. Great question. So for just a kind of a reference point locally here in San Diego, we've started partnering with a single individual restaurant from national chains. So as you saw in our pitch, PF Chang's, True Food Kitchen, Freshie. But to put it even in a local perspective, we're currently only collecting 25% of their actual San Diego locations. And as of those 25% that we're actually collecting their rice and quinoa and upcycling that, if we actually scale that up to 100%, our current production rate right now, our demand, we're only actually producing 10%. So for just the upcycled flour aspect to be produced into our cookies, we could actually make 18,000 units just from our San Diego locations. And we're actually just doing the low hanging fruit. This isn't pickup sticks or other Asian or health inspired restaurants that are in San Diego producing this surplus. And then also scaling nationwide. We have seen that we wanted to diversify and actually become a little bit more resilient. So as you've seen in our upcycled granola, we now use byproducts as well. So tapping into the juice pulp, the almond pulp, the nut milk industry to actually to continue to expand to different lines. So we don't end up finding in those bottlenecks. So.
But are you building then centers in each locale?
Yeah, so like I said, so yeah, this is just in San Diego, and we also have then scaled that nationwide. So the great thing about our partners is they are in every major metropolitan city. So we've actually scaled to see which locations would be then where we can leverage and how many pounds of food we can rescue and upcycled into products. And then so we do have a hub kind of scale models that we would then replicate what we do in San Diego and Phoenix and Denver and LA to really help leverage that.
Thank you for explaining all of that. But there's a lot going on. So I'm curious, how are you funding the business? How do you think about capital? How do you think about deploying it? And what's the next stage in capitalization?
So currently right now, we have not raised any money. We've been completely self-funded and using our revenue to really fund the business. And the reason for that, it's not that we're not looking to raise capital in the future. We want to grow this and we will grow this, but we really want to ensure that we've kind of ironed out all of the details and we've really solidified our operations here in San Diego before we open that door. Because the moment that we do take capital, it's because we want to, initiate a new rescue hub in a different city. But with that being said, we've really funded this, like I said, with revenue. A lot of it have been with pitch competitions and grants. The state of California actually gives out a food waste grant every year. And luckily we qualify for that. So that's really been helping us.
Terrific. Thank you so much, Rayanne and Kristen. We appreciate you guys submitting and the questions. So thank you. Okay, last but not least, our final contestant is Dev Chakrabarty, founder of Truveda, a prebiotic soda with plant prebiotics and Ayurvedic super herbs. I think they bill it as Coca-Cola meets yoga. So looking forward to hearing what Dev has to say.
Hey, Naturally San Diego. I'm Dev Chakrabarty, and I'm the creator of Truveda Prebiotic Super Soda. We have officially hacked boring old soda with super herbs and spices. Truveda is a cool story in the sense that it's a true story of East meets West. My parents were born and raised in India and migrated here in the 1980s, and I was born and raised here in Southern California. Together, like growing up, we had always promotion of like Ayurvedic herbal teas, turmeric, ashwagandha, amla. These are very popular in India and always used for self-care. And so my parents always encouraged these type of things. And then also gut health was also a big priority in our family because my father is a gastroenterologist, now practicing for over 35 years. And so the funny thing out of all of this, like me growing up, I would love soda. So I would drink Coke and Sprite and I love the experience of it, Dr. Pepper. And so My dad would always get upset because he saw firsthand what it would do to his patients who had soda addiction, high sugar and insulin resistance and lower immunity, and leaky gut. And so I stopped drinking soda in high school and never looked back, but I still always miss that soda experience. And so I figured there had to be a way to combine the two. And so together I teamed up with my dad and we created a cool, effective Ayurvedic herbal blend designed to promote microbiome health and boost immunity. And so that is how Terveda was born. And we have 3 cool flavors. This one is chill. This one's lavender, vanilla, ashwagandha. We have turmeric, lemon, ginger, which is wellness. And then we have immunity, which is amla berry, which is high in vitamin C, passion fruit, and blood orange. So all our flavors are cool in that they're unique combos in different flavored layers, very delicious and very flavorful and also functional. We launched these in February 2021 into Air1 markets, and we quickly became the fastest selling drink in the set ever, faster than Olipop and faster than Poppy started. So that's very exciting. We retail these around for a $329, $299 price because we're trying to blend that niche of wellness shots and soda. So we feel like we can command that premium price point because a wellness shot goes for around $399. And so we feel like there's room in there to play in that category. And also a unique point is we're shelf stable, whereas Olipop isn't, so we can be placed in multiple parts of the store. And we also have 8-packs, which help for direct to consumer Amazon, and the weight is all dialed in. So that's all good. And yeah, so our goal is to incubate the brand in the natural organic stores in California. And next month we launch into Sprouts, California, which is very exciting. And so we signed up with KeHE and UNFI. So we're very poised to grow the brand in that natural independent section and really get dominant there. And so to sum it up, we're super soda, supercharged with superfoods. And so thank you all for listening to my story. And I hope you guys get to try one, come into a store near you. Thank you.
All right, so judges, kick it off with some questions you have.
Thanks for participating. Thanks for sending us the samples. You have a lot of attributes on the front of packaging based on your products. How will you educate the consumer on sort of the values and the attributes that are important to them, given how many things you currently have on pack?
So I'm kind of prebiotic is kind of what I'm umbrellaing everything under. So brands like Olipop and Poppy have kind of paved the way for that prebiotic category. Consumers understand that. So buyers, when they see my product, they know right away to place it next to Poppy and Olipop. So for consumers, I'm like an extension of what, if they're liking an Olipop, like I'd be just an extension if they're like a wellness shot, in that category.
And with that, I know you mentioned that your product is shelf stable, but you're landing in most instances next to an Olipop or a Poppy.
Correct. Right now, yeah.
Are you also going after the distribution on the dry shelf? And if so, how are you thinking about directing consumers as to where to find the product in store?
Right now, I'm building the product in the refrigerator section because that's where consumers recognize the value of it right away. So I'm kind of just following the blueprint that Olipop and Poppy did like a year and a half ago, you know, when they first started. So once my volume gets high enough, people start liking the product, then I know I can go in that dry section and like sell an 8-pack, you know. So that's kind of my strategy right now. But given our success at Erewhon, we launched last month. They told me that I'm selling faster right now than Olipop and Poppy when they first started. So that was some good news.
I have a quick question. So I'm sure, as you know, the gut health industry is crazy crowded, from supplements to food to obviously drinks. So how do you guys plan on standing out in this probiotic, prebiotic, gut health industry?
Yeah, so everything's around gut health, but Ayurveda is starting to get trendy here in US. It's like yoga's sister science. So in Ayurveda has like a whole encyclopedia of herbs. So if you kind of notice, like turmeric got hot like 2 years ago, a year ago, and then now next one's like ashwagandha and things like that. And so those are all Ayurvedic herbs that Americans now are finally starting to connect the dots. And so I can constantly evolve the brand and creating products that kind of incorporate the next trending Ayurvedic herb like neem or amla or some kind of function with the taste, you know?
Can you talk to us a little bit about your strategy, distribution strategy, what ideal partnerships look like for you from a distribution perspective, and really how you drive this forward, both, I'm guessing, from a retail and D2C perspective?
From retail, like I just got with UNFI and KE. So I'm going to build the brand in the natural section, you know? So my goal is to replicate the success that I'm having in Erewhon, in the Bristol Farms and the Mothers and the Jimbos, you know, the Nuggets. So I'm going to incubate the brand really hard in the next year in these natural channel, and ideally just follow that same Olipop blueprint that they did. I'm not reinventing anything. I'm just expanding it, you know? So that's kind of my philosophy. So, and then D2C, like since I'm shelf stable, you know, I have the 8-packs that, you know, you just flip open. Or what happened? It's like cutting out, sorry. But yeah, so direct to consumer with the 8-packs. And I went with the 8-pack as opposed to like a 12-pack or a 6-pack because I'm a premium price product. So like I feel like an 8-pack can command the same price as a 12-pack being premium, but like a 6-pack at an $18 price point seems way too high. But an 8-pack like at a $24 price point to the consumer doesn't. So it's just like a weird price psychology. But the weight is also like, it's better than a 12-pack, you know, it's like right under like 7 pounds. So for Amazon and stuff, you get under that weight limit and they give you a better shipping rate and stuff like that.
Dev, so good to have you. You've built an awesome product and great brand, and we appreciate you sharing your journey with us here. Great meeting you, Dev.
Thank you, guys.
Hello, everybody. What an evening that was. Wow. Can we just say Shark Tank meets San Diego? Judges, you guys killed it. All the brands, thank you so much for you stepping up and doing the hard work and creating the products you created. And, you know, we're just thrilled to put this event on, and we're thrilled to build the community. So excellent work from everybody. There's a handful of people we need to say thank you before while the judges are deliberating, there's a handful of people we need to thank for this night to even happen. So first, most importantly, it's our executive director and our program manager, Jess Swindell and Katrina Kuhn. None of this would be possible without them. The work that went into the back end of all of this is truly incredible. And my just thank you to them, because they are just incredible people. This is made possible by also a lot of other folks. While the judges are doing the hard work and thinking about who's going to get the package, So I want to remind people of a couple things. So we are going to also have a People's Choice Award, which there will be a poll going out now for all the people that are participating. And that will be for the community here to choose who is the winner from their perspective, while the judges are doing the hard work right now. So we'll get that poll going on, and please participate in that and cast your vote to who you think should be the winner of tonight's Naturally Pitch Slam. Another special shout out to Hale Productions for the magic of all this back end. You guys saw the camera going in, camera going out. That is Hale Productions, and they really brought it home for us. So I think without further ado, we should pass the mic to Sarah Brooks. And if they're ready, if they've done enough diligence, to tell us who the winner is tonight. So while we get Sarah queued up, we're working through the event. I saw the chat throughout the whole event, and I know the audience was highly engaged, participating, and we can't thank you guys enough for the feedback. I personally thoroughly enjoyed listening to all the brands and trying all their products, and just really thrilled with the innovation coming out of Naturally San Diego. So we will pass it off. We'll see if we can get Sarah on here, and we will see if they've deliberated to share the winners of tonight's Pitch Slam. Let's see here.
All right, guys, we are excited to be soon announcing our winner. As a reminder, the following criteria is what the judges and I had to help us make it our decision. So number one, we were looking for products that had differentiation in the market space, from competitive advantages, innovative positioning, 2, scalability, 3, packaging and branding, could it jump off the shelf, traction, where their sales indicated that this was a viable product, and lastly, just that business X factor. So we have been deliberating behind the scenes, and we are excited to be announcing our winner. It was a very stiff competition, but we are pleased to share that Mac of I Eat My Greens is the first winner of the Naturally San Diego Pitch Slam. I think across the board, the judges and I were blown away by the taste and versatility of the soups. We thought it was priced well, and it had a great market fit in a category that is only growing. So congrats to you, Mac, and congrats to all of our other finalists. We had a really fun time getting to know you, and we wish you guys all incredible success.
Mac, let's bring him up. Mac from I Eat My Greens, San Diego legend, Olympian. Let's see if we can get Mac up here and we can talk to him about what he's going to do with this amazing award package. As a reminder, why we try to get Mac on here, this is no small prize package. So we have retail distribution at the best retailers in San Diego. We got Jimbo's on board, Seaside Market, Jensen's, Cream of the Crop. I think this is probably like 15, 16 points of distribution in retail. We have a 10 by 10 booth at Expo East to our friends at the New Hope Network. And then over $25,000 in services from local San Diego companies. And, I know Mac is a scrappy young lad and he will put it to good work. So let's get Mac on. There he is, my man. Mac, you're swimming in dough. You got 25 grand and you got distribution. What's up, man?
Hey, this is great. Thank you, Matt. All I can say is thank you. Thank you to everybody in Natalie, San Diego, the judges, for organizing this amazing event and for fostering this community the way that you have. You've created an exceptional group and that I'm very proud to be part of. And the future is very bright for I Eat My Greens. Today marks, the inflection points and the sky's the limit. Entrepreneurship is a huge roller coaster and the highs are high and this one is a super high one, and let's celebrate. And this is going to catapult the growth of I Eat My Greens like never before. I'm very grateful and very excited. So thank you so much.
Well, I know we have 100 people tuning in to the Pitch Slam tonight. All of them have to go out and buy I Eat My Greens and check it out on the website. I know Jimbo is on. Jimbo, I want end caps. I want end caps and I Eat My Greens. Same with Seaside Market and Jensen's. Shout out, Mac. You have been thrilled to work with. Your product is incredible. I know all the judges it was a tough call, but you just guys delivered on taste and product, and we're excited to see where it goes. So thank you so much, my man, for participating, and can't wait to see you around San Diego.
Oh, thanks everybody. So great.
Love it, love it, love it. Okay, so for the People's Choice Award, we're gonna see if the poll came in here, and we're gonna bring up the People's Choice Award winner. I don't know who this is yet. They're holding out on me. So I'm thinking that I'm gonna get Slack the winner of this. Here it is, coming in hot. Okay, the People's Choice Award winner is. Okay, here we go. Drum roll. Shroom Eats, People's Choice winner. I cannot wait to have Shroom Eats back on because their products are delicious. I love the name Shroom Eats. It is such a play on words, and let's bring them on and let's talk to them about what are they going to get advantage of for the People's Choice Award winner. I know we're working on getting Shroom Eats on. I actually had their meatballs, and I got to tell you guys, pretty darn delicious. I encourage you guys to check them out as well. And so for the prizes for the People's Choice Awards, you're gonna get PR consulting from Power Digital. That's our friend Sarah Brooks, as we get Shroom Eats on here. Got brand consulting from Bulldog Drummond. That is not cheap. We've done with them before, and they are fantastic. You got sales and ops consulting from Velocity Snack Brands. And then you got a positioning strategy for our one and only Purely Righteous Brands. That's Greg Fleischman. So Shroom Eats, you are in good company there for winning. There she is, Desaya. We got her on. All right, Desaya. Are you thrilled? This is a surprise. It's new to me. What do you think?
I was screaming, but I found out that I was mute. So, so I just screamed to myself, but thank you so much. Naturally San Diego. I already feel like this is a win, being one of the 5 amazing companies, and you guys have been amazing. We learned so much from you, and we need these communities in the world and to make a change in food industry. So thank you so much.
Desaya, you also have an amazing product. Everybody on this team and on the pitch did an incredible job. You guys definitely are particularly mouthwatering. I'm so happy the People's Choice Award goes to you guys. You're in great company with some of the benefits there. Like I said, Power Digital, Bulldog Drummond, Velocity Snack Brands, and Purely Righteous. We're going to put you in touch with all of them. Ask as many questions as you can, especially from Greg. Greg Fleischman loves taking his time to give all the brands. We love it. Thank you so much. Thank you for having in the San Diego competition, and hope to see you around town soon. All right, everybody, that wraps up the day for the Pitch Slam. It has been a thrill to put this on, and thank you for all the community members that help us out through all our programming. Please find us on social, naturallysandiego.org, on LinkedIn, and on Slack and on Instagram. Follow us if you want information on when our next events are. And most importantly, stay classy, San Diego.